Okay, so imagine this. You're me scrolling through gaming news or browsing trailers last week, and suddenly, bam, out of nowhere, Saber Interactive drops a teaser for a brand new game. But not just any game, a full-on first-person single-player horror experience based on none other than Hellraiser. Now, if you're like me, you probably sat up straight, blinked a few times, and said, wait a second, we're actually getting a Hellraiser game, and it's not multiplayer, and it's not just a psychological walking simulator. So buckle in, because Clive Barker's Hellraiser revival isn't just a nostalgia trip. It's doing something wild, something bold, and honestly something the horror genre might desperately need right now. So today, we're diving into everything we know about this upcoming title, breaking down the gameplay teases, discussing what makes this different from your typical horror fare, and why I think it might just be a genre-defining moment. Let's dive in. Okay, so let's start with the reveal. Clive Barker's Hellraiser revival kind of came out of nowhere. There was no long, slow drip of leaks or rumor mills building over months. This was one of those classic mic drop moments where Saber Interactive just says, hey, we're working on a Hellraiser game. Surprise! And not only did they announce it, they brought Clive Barker's name right into the title. And now that is important because it is a bold statement. It tells us they're not just borrowing the license and slapping on some chains and hooks. This is his vision, his twisted, brilliant world adapted to a medium it's never fully explored before. And here is the kicker. It's not some predictable Dead by Daylight style clone. Hellraiser Revival is going against the grain. It's not an asymmetrical multiplayer game like we've come to expect from horror IPs in the last 5 years. This is a single-player, first-person, action survival horror experience. And now that phrase alone, action survival horror, sets the tone for something different, something gutsy. While we didn't get a full gameplay breakdown during the trailer, what we did see and what's been shared through various blog posts and the Steam page tells us enough to start painting a picture. But all right, so let's be real for a second. When you hear Hellraiser, what comes to mind? So for most people, it's Pinhead and the Cenobites, obviously, but also this creeping, oppressive sense of dread, the body horror, the skin-crawling imagery. You'd think a game based on Hellraiser would lean into that slow burn, psychological terror, maybe something a little like Amnesia or Outlast. But no, Saber's doing something totally unexpected here, and I honestly kind of love it. Instead of running, hiding, and praying for mercy, Hellraiser Revival is literally handing you weapons. And not only are you confronting the terrors of this universe, you're actually fighting back. The developers aren't pulling punches on this either. They're promising melee combat, range combat, and intense, deliberate encounters. This isn't some power fantasy either, it's about surviving through action, not just avoiding conflict. And what's really fascinating is how much this turns the modern horror formula on its head. For the past decade or so, especially in first-person horror, we've been trained to feel helpless. We're the mouse being hunted. It's about vulnerability. But here, Saber is saying, what if we let the mouse fight back with a shotgun? And honestly, that fits Hellraiser more than you think. This franchise has always been violent, intense, and let's be honest, confrontational. Pain and pleasure, chains and hooks. It's not subtle, so making a horror game that embraces that physical, visceral energy feels like the right call. It's not just about surviving, it's about confronting your fears and destroying them if, well, you can't. So all right, let's talk details, because Saber didn't just drop a trailer and just walk away, poof, we'll see it later. They've been quietly sharing little nuggets of info through blog posts and Steam updates. One key post came from Xbox Wire, where executive producer Nenad Tomic dropped this tantalizing line, "The game is closer than you think." Now that is an interesting statement, because the first instinct is to think, okay, cool, it's going to be maybe early 2026, who knows? But the more you dig into it, the more it sounds like Saber is aiming sooner than that, possibly even this year. Now Steam currently lists the game as coming soon, which usually means nothing. But in this case, it actually might mean what it says. And here's where it gets even more juicier. October of this year is looking surprisingly empty in the horror genre. Silent Hill F is hitting in September, Little Nightmares 3 is confirmed, but outside of that, the field is wide open. Add to the fact that Supermassive's Directive 8020 got bumped to 2026, and suddenly you're looking at a horror vacuum during the spookiest month of the year. So, would it be perfect for Hellraiser Revival to drop in October? The tone, the IP, the timing, it's like the stars are aligning, or maybe the puzzle box is opening. Very much pun intended. But now, of course, this depends on how far along the game actually is. If Saber can deliver a polished product, October would be a killer launch window. But even if it is early 2026, that's still a short wait considering we just learned about this thing. But now let's circle back to the combat, because this might be the thing that defines the game. Combat in horror is tricky. Too much power and the tension evaporates. Too little and it feels frustrating or overly punishing. But Hellraiser Revival is walking that tightrope by designing a system that's confrontational, brutal, and crucially earned. You're not some superhero here, you are a survivor. The weapons you get won't make you overpowered, but they'll give you options. And it seems like Saber is trying to make every fight feel meaningful. You're not clearing rooms of enemies like Doom, you're surviving one terrifying encounter at a time. And let's be honest, it's refreshing to hear about a horror game where fighting back is part of the core DNA. We've had so many run and hide simulators in recent years. Even games like Resident Evil 7 and 8 lean more into shooting, but they still made you feel like you were hanging on by a thread. And here, that thread might be barbed wire, and it's probably soaked in blood, but you still have a chance. And that matters. And, of course, we need to talk about the enemy design as well. Now, while we haven't seen full gameplay yet, this is Hellraiser. The Cenobites are almost guaranteed to show up, whether it's the classic Pinhead or a whole new cast of Nightmare Fuel. This game has the potential to bring some of the most iconic and terrifying character designs in horror history to life in fully 3D interactive environments. And imagine facing off against them in first person, not just running, but actually engaging. That could be absolutely harrowing in the best way. Now, I know what you're all thinking. This all sounds amazing, but can they actually pull it off? Which, to me, is a fair question. Because yeah, we have been burned before. Tons of horror games promise the world and then either vanish into development limbo or ship half-baked. But I will say this, Saber has the chops. They did develop Evil Dead the game. And while that was a multiplayer experience and the game didn't really last very long, it did show they understood horror tone and aesthetic. It was fun, fast, and shockingly respectful to the source material. And with Hellraiser Revival, they've got the chance to do something truly stand out. Something we haven't seen from this genre in years. Not just a horror game, not just an action game, but a twisted, violent love letter to one of the most brutal franchises in cinematic history. And as someone who's been dying for horror games to evolve, this feels like a real evolution. I mean, I'm in the middle of playing some of the older Resident Evil games right now. It's been a lot of fun, so I'm excited to see what this cooks up. And of course, it's ambitious, it's risky, and it's not trying to play it safe. And here's another thing. If this game does well, it could open the floodgates for other franchises to take similar risks. Imagine Event Horizon as a survival horror, or The Thing rebooted with modern mechanics. Horror gaming could be entering a new golden age, and Hellraiser Revival might be kicking that door open. So where does this all leave us currently? Well, me personally, I'm genuinely hyped. And maybe just a little bit cautious, but of course in a good way. I want this game to be everything it's promising and more. I want to walk through dark corridors, feel the panic rise as I hear chains rattling in the distance, and then, just maybe, get the satisfaction of fighting back against my fear that I had growing up when I watched this movie. Now, Clive Barker's work has always been about challenging norms, pushing boundaries, and exploring the limits of human experience. If Hellraiser Revival can bring even a fraction of that to the gaming world, then we're in for something special. So keep your eyes peeled, wishlist the game, follow the updates, and get ready to open the box because hell is closer than you think. So my question to you is, overall from all this video, are you guys excited about the Hellraiser game? Are you excited to learn more about it? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're new, as I will continue to be bringing gaming news videos just like this one. Until next time.